Greetings, fellow Dragonstaffers. In this video, we'll be covering the 3 levels of groundwork and some fun tricks that we can incorporate into the 3 levels of groundwork. So there won't exactly be any prerequisites for this one. However, the more tricks that you have in your arsenal, kind of the more tricks that you'll have to play with at each of the 3 levels of groundwork. And before we jump into this one, I do want to take a second to highly recommend having some type of padding underneath you, whether it's a rug or a yoga mat, or maybe you have actual padded mats, that would be ideal, or if nothing else, some blankets thrown out on the floor. Anything is better than nothing. I also recommend being barefoot without shoes or socks when doing groundwork, especially if you're going to do any stuff with the feet. That won't be absolutely necessary for this video because I don't plan on getting too much into foot tricks and more just covering the concept of the 3 different levels of groundwork and some different tricks that we can use from each of the 3 levels. So our first level of groundwork is kneeling. And there are a few different ways that you can kneel. You can be upright like so, you can be sitting back on the heels, you could kind of maybe do a back bend. You could have one knee on the floor, one forward. So some different types of kneeling that you can do. And one thing I want to point out is some tricks are available to us at each of the 3 levels of groundwork. Other tricks are really just available in one level of groundwork, or one pose or position, I should say. So palm spins are a nice trick that are available to you at each level of groundwork. So these are a nice thing to go to if you plan on going from kneeling to one of the other levels of groundwork. Another trick that I like to do from a kneeling position is, I did it a moment ago, and that is taking a bit of a back bend, raising the staff up overhead, letting it roll down the arms, then bringing the arms down in front of you to catch the staff, and kind of the same time chi roll. And if back bends are your jam, then a split time chi roll can be a nice thing to go to too. As you can tell, back bends are not my jam. And those are some things that we can do from a kneeling position. I also want to mention that this can be a nice first level to go to if you're coming to the ground from standing. It could be in your chi roll, come to a kneeling position, or your palm spin, or whatever the heck you like, but this is a nice first level of groundwork. Our second level of groundwork is seated, and there are many different ways that we can sit, but I suppose the major difference between this level and the previous level, kneeling, is that instead of being on our knees, we're sitting on our buttocks. So if you're comfortable with sitting crisscross applesauce, at least that's what they called it when I was a kid, this can be a nice seated position to go to play with your split time chi rolls. From here it can look nice to isolate the staff, maybe bring it overhead or behind your head, I should say. And another seated position we can go to is having the legs straight out in front of us. And if you are a yogi like myself, then you know this is a pose called Dandasana, or staff pose. And this pose lends itself really nicely if you plan on coming into some foot stuff, because obviously we can just lift the legs and voila, we have the staff on the legs or the feet. And another seated position, like I said, there's many. if you do yoga, then you could probably come up with a whole bunch of stuff yourself. You could sit in Baddha Konasana or Janu Shirshasana, or one thing that I like to go to, and this will unlock a seated matrix, and that is kind of a wide-legged seated pose. I forget what the English name of it is, but the Sanskrit name is Upavista Konasana. And from here, with the legs wide, sitting on the floor, you can access a matrix. Although I'll admit the last part, the exit, is a little difficult, so I oftentimes will kind of hook the arm around the staff to exit right there. But this is one of those tricks that you can't really nail from certain seated poses, but it works nicely with this wide-legged one. So those are a few seated positions for our level 2 of groundwork. For level 3, we come all the way down to the floor in a reclined position. And like I mentioned at the beginning, palm spins can take you from all of the different levels, whether it's starting from standing, going to level 1, kneeling, level 2, seated, or level 3, reclined. And this is a fun trick to use while reclined, because you can engage with the audience like so, maybe eat some grapes, whatever you like. And from a reclined position, you can also get away with doing your split time chi roll, your same time chi roll, and this can also be a nice place to come into some stuff with the feet or with the legs. Even easier if you don't have a couch. So nice to have a lot of space when doing groundwork. Probably should also mention that at the beginning. So I definitely recommend playing with whichever tricks you know from each of these different levels and different ways of sitting and different ways of kneeling. I don't want to limit the options down to what we covered in this video, but I think that it is a nice way to kind of group these tricks and to come up with new tricks from different levels. And that's gonna do it for this video. Thank you all so much for watching. A huge thank you to all of you watching and supporting on Patreon, and I will see you in the next video.